to the Brain Profits Podcast. Are you ready for the show? We are, so let's go. Welcome back. This is season 2 of the Brain Profits. I'm Doug Mapp, cognitive development professional, and I'm here with 2 brilliant other people. Let them introduce themselves.
How about we go ladies first?
All right, Mrs. Philippe. We'll get that this season, right? Season 2, Mrs.
Yeah, I got it.
Stacey Busby, executive coach. And Doc, who are you?
Dr. Philippe Duyon, board certified neurologist, author of the books Neuroplasticity, Your Brain Superpower, and Change Your Brain, Change Your Life, creator of the online course, Take Charge of Your Brain.
And he's an entrepreneur, folks. Don't forget that too.
Yeah, and I've got a Children's Illustrated series called Nuri the Neuron.
Yeah, we're gonna make that big time. That's gonna be a cartoon one day. We're gonna make that happen. All right. Well, we are back, and so are you, the listener. So thank you for rocking with us. We want to jump into it though. Stacey, you presented some stuff, some facts and figures that is happening post-pandemic, right? We're still experiencing. What is it that we are still experiencing? What are we looking at?
Yeah, well, and I don't know, are we officially called post-pandemic yet? Has there been a label of it? I don't think so. But we have just reached, based on the recording of this, we have just reached the transition of the CDC, moving from we got to do everything we possibly can to keep people alive to, okay, we know enough now where this is, talk about layman's terms interpretation of what's just happened. Philippe, feel free to smart this up a bit, but essentially COVID's going to be around. And so we're going to figure out what it's going to look like to live and move forward. And so it was timely to also then be hearing, there was an NPR segment on how are we doing as a society with our pandemic habits, because we had 2 whole years to gather new habits based on the trauma we did or did not experience, based on the shifts and changes in our life trajectory. And it doesn't look like the news is all that great on how we're coming out of the pandemic. I mean, weight gain, drinking, high blood pressure. And I'll just go ahead and own it, like with this group right now. I mean, I am in this group. I am in the 10% of people who gained more than 12.5 pounds in the last 2 years. I have, well, I'd like to say that I decreased exercise, but I just never brought it back. My son was 1.5 years when the pandemic came, and it would have been just about that time where I was adding that time back in it. Unless it's for the farm, I have not been adding that exercise back. I am leaning in to my pandemic habits hard. Let's check in. Yeah, check in. I want to hear about you guys.
I want to add one thing to your list of things and that's your level of social interaction. Is that picked back up? Did it decrease? Because specifically because we know each other, so we see each other. And I remember when I saw your son, in that 18 to 20 month window. And then the next time I saw you, he was huge. And it was mind boggling to me. Like, how is this kid walking around like this when he was a baby, like yesterday? It's how it felt, Yeah. And so I miss seeing that transition. And I'm sure other people miss seeing these transitions from, especially with kids, when they go from barely walking and talking to now they're a full person that can actually have conversations with you. But I want to add that social interaction piece into it too.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I would say about time that I think is really important for us to consider as we talk about this whole coming out of it is that I have, and I've had lots of other people talk about it, this losing sense of time. You will say, well, it's been probably like a year or 2, and then you realize, oh no, that was pre-pandemic. So let me add another year or 2 to it, and how much that has messed with us. And so if good things in our mind are, we're misinterpreting time, just think about how easily it is to misinterpret time and how long it's been since I've been to the gym, or how long it's been that I'm drinking several extra glasses of wine at night, or doubling my pour of scotch in the glass. And so, yeah, socially, I'll tell you, Doug, socially, it has just started to pick back up. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize how badly my soul needed it. Like I feel tears coming, like this opening up of, because we're designed for interaction. This stuff going on, it's starting to feel stupid that we've never met Philippe in person. Like this is the way the world is, and it's great that we can do this. But there's this point of our relationship gets to go that much further once we are always, once we get to be in person. So I digress. Doug, did you develop any bad habits?
Dude, did I? Man, I dove more into snacks, which I'm slowly trying to come out of. I don't snack as late as I was before. And if I do, it's strictly healthy snacks. So replacing the snacks with healthy snacks has been the win for me this time around. I have, in the last 2 months, started going back to the gym. So I'm kicking that back up. I did gain weight too, more than 12 pounds. So, so don't feel so bad. You're great. And then,
well, I didn't say I was less than 12 pounds. I was just in that 10% that gained more than 12.5. I didn't tell you how much more.
Yeah, you didn't say.
And you all get to see me from here on up. So,
well, you know what? That's funny because
these genetics, they get added to the bootay.
See, well, it's funny that you say that we get to see you from essentially from the neck up, because when you mention that, it's kind of stupid at this point that I've never met you guys in real life. It's really interesting. There was somebody, this was maybe at the beginning of the podcast. Or beginning of the pandemic. I would do these Zoom sort of sessions with a group of people, and had never really met most of them face to face. And then I was at a conference and met one of them face to face, and I was like, "You look so different when you're taking the entire body as opposed to just neck up. Like that's not what I expected you to look like at all." So,
that's funny.
Listen, so if you guys are thinking I'm like 6'3", you guys are going to be significantly disappointed.
It is amazing how we fill in, our brain will fill in the rest of the picture. I mean, no different than when reading a book. Folks were talking about that when we had masks on all the time, and then you meet somebody without their mask and you're like, you don't look at all how I thought you looked. Right. And I've had the same experience. I've been networking with a group of people every week for 2 years. And I met them at a social event in January. And I was like, you're short? Like, you're shorter than me.
Hey, how tall are you guys? How tall are you guys? So when we do meet.
Yeah. So I'm 5'10".
Stacey?
I'm 5'4". I must have spoken at the same time.
Yeah, we did.
Okay. I'm 5'9". 5'9". All right, so we're okay. So I'm not walking into Stacey being like 6'5", Doug being like, 7 feet.
We're gonna look great in a picture together for this podcast.
Got it. We gotta do that. We gotta do that.
Yeah.
We're gonna have Philippe to come down.
So, but Doug, you did it. By the way, you did a great job in my work as an executive coach. My job is to listen at a level that others don't listen. And I just want to say, because you've heard me say this before to you when we've coached together, you did a great job of answering a question, but not the question I asked. I'm over here taking full ownership for my shit and the world I've created for myself. And you're like, oh yeah, I mean, I'm eating less snacks now. And I'm, all these things that you're doing now.
I'm telling you now.
Yeah. That's not the question.
Focus on the present. Focus on the present.
Yeah.
No, I just like everybody else, I didn't, so I don't drink. So that wasn't a problem for me. But I did definitely jump into the sugar wars, seeing how much sugar I could tolerate without, going blind. So but so I learned how to bake snacks. I'm not snacks, but cakes. That was a lot of fun. And there's a lot of sugar in pound cake, just so you guys know, lots. But it tastes fantastic the more sugar you have in it. But I also, I think I got more sedimentary because, without the gym, I didn't have to walk around. So I didn't. My wife got pregnant during this time too. So I had a pandemic baby. So that was great. But, you know, we
not completely sedentary.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah,
well, maybe. I don't
know. That's good. But yeah, no, but we so it's more like walking around. And they say, you know, I know for a fact that while my wife was pregnant, she definitely was more about like this snack, that snack, right? So it made it even easier for me to not focus on what I need to do for me, and support her. And so, not throwing any blame on her side of that, but it definitely made it easy for me to, give up the ghost in some regards. Man, I really didn't take a whole lot of assessment of like what I was doing habit forming, but there was a lot that I'm sure I put down. I don't think I read, but I think I listened. So it was weird. So I'm at home. And so rather than reading real books, I listened to more books than I actually would have read. So I kind of switched that around, which is weird because I'm not, I'm sitting at home more, but I would like, I'll just listen to it as I do things around here. So I have an Audible account that I like to use now. We need to get Audible as a sponsor, by the way. But anyways, but it'd be interesting. I need to sit down and do like a my timeline type of event and really, inventory the last 2 years, what was negative and what helped me. And, I'd invite the users to engage in such an activity too. But what about you, Philippe? What bad things, even what good things maybe you've added during that time? We know you got heavier in the drinking. That's why you had to get a new kidney. So
first of all, I've never drank. You bet what, Stacey?
I was going to do some predictions here that Philippe is in that like 0.5% of people that are fitter than they've ever been in their lives.
So I am not. However,
okay.
that is my goal.
Thanks for being my people. No.
Yeah, that is my goal by the end of June. Yeah. I did put on 20 pounds. However, you got to remember that I got sick with COVID. I was, on dialysis, so I had lost a lot of weight. So I've regained that weight back, which I'd like to think is muscle, but I'm not going to tell you guys that because in case we ever meet, then I got to prove it.
That's the first thing I'm going to say. Take your shirt off.
That's right. But yeah, I am especially on days where I'm working, I am walking much less and being much less active. So even when I was working in the hospitals, right, like you're walking from your office to the hospital, you're walking all around the hospital to see patients. And now I'm seeing all these patients virtually. So I'm just sitting down for essentially 12 hours seeing patients. And a couple of weeks ago, I started realizing I'm developing a little bit of piriformis syndrome.
What's that?
So the piriformis muscle gets irritated. It can even push on the sciatic nerve a little bit.
Let's go. Whoa. You got to go back before that. What's this? Where
are we talking? Are they in their butt?
Yeah, it's in the piriformis muscle is basically in your butt, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And so just sitting on my butt all day, it's causing that muscle to get irritated and inflamed. And so if I'm sitting for a while, I'll start to feel it, or depending on the kind of exercise I'm doing. Like this morning, I was doing some deadlifts and I was feeling it. Do they? I probably should get butt pads, but but yeah, so I've been less active, and I'm trying to, at least on the days I'm not working, be as active as possible. You know what? In the stats that you sent me, actually, I was really surprised how much money gets spent on liquor in this country. And I was surprised that most of it was in beer, like $47 billion a year on beer. That is crazy.
That's why we need to start a brewery. Actually, no, it's really funny. A lot of people had that idea because I know where we live, a brewery popped up like on the beginning parts of our town or a little city. So that's kind of interesting to look and see, but a lot of them have popped up since the pandemic started.
But I think it also brings up a bigger question. Like, why is it that we need to turn to alcohol to relax when things get more stressful? Why do we turn to something that is poisonous to every part of our body?
Yeah, but that's really great. I love where this is going with that question, because what I kept thinking as I asked that question and heard your answers is that we are primed for the next campaign to for somebody that wants to make money to say, you're not enough, so come get my pill, come get my treatment, come get my program. We are primed for that. And the three of us truly know that we can do that without, like, it's within us.
Right.
So we'll come to that piece of it, but why do we? Well, because it's quick. I mean, just like that, you can all of a sudden feel relaxed.
But you can do that just meditating.
I know, but meditation takes work. It does not take work to take a drink of wine. I'm telling you.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Or is it that we've been brainwashed to drink?
So I think it's a little. I think it's
do we sell it? Do we believe that this feels better, even though we know it feels shitty later?
And it's funny because people also believe that sex is better when they drink, but from a scientific perspective, it's not necessarily true. But a couple things do.
No. I'm saying, is it true that people actually think that sex is better when they drink? I wonder, because I've never seen any.
A lot of people say that.
I have to start asking.
Yeah, a lot of people say that, but I mean, it doesn't make sense. In some ways, it does make sense because beer goggles is a real thing. So we do become more attracted to people the more drunk we get, because we start seeing faces and bodies as symmetric, even if they're not, and we find symmetry attractive.
And there's lowered inhibition.
There's lowered inhibition.
That's a massively vulnerable act. No matter how amazing you think that you are, it's vulnerable. So it gets to lower your inhibitions and not worry about that as much.
Yeah, but the reality is things like, whiskey penis is a real thing, right? Where people can't perform.
Yeah. Right. Well, let's take it into then. So let's talk about that then. Why, for good reason, what are all the reasons that we turn to sedentary life, drinking, all of these things?
I think it's because I think I look at at least I try to look at some things from like how we think. And I think it's because we're not creative. And when you're not creative, remember when you're a kid, you used to, like, even though you couldn't cook, you would look at mud and go like, you know what, I think I could turn this into food. and then in that little bit of creativity, you made your first mud pie. You didn't even, I don't remember tasting one, but I remember making those things. And so most of us have probably done something along those lines. And that's our brain saying, hey, I want to create. But then as we get older, we're kind of conditioned to be like, oh, everything that's could have been created is already created. So what's the point of you even trying to create yourself? So you don't even, so much less do you try to create anything new for everybody. You barely start to create anything new for yourself. When we look at our jobs, a lot of us do the same routine every day, even if it's a desk job. I think about like maybe in the social work level or even in the doctor level, it's the same routine of like, okay, turn the computer on, look at this, do that, and rinse, wash, repeat every single day. And so when you do that, there's not much creativity needed to do that. And so you kind of like don't seek to figure out something new or to experience something new that may give you a new idea. So I feel like that's where we've been conditioned to kind of lose that level of creativity to see something, new. And the reason why I think of that is because one of the things I did get to do during the pandemic, or the tail end of the second winter is what they call it, right? I got to go to San Francisco. And when I was out there, I also went and experienced one of their redwood forests and the giant trees. I've always wanted I've been out there before and I never got to go, or I didn't take the time to go is what I should say. And this time around, it's like, I'm making a point to see these giant trees that like everybody talks about, or people have talked about, that I've never seen. And they are massive, massive trees. And I saw the baby ones. But the thing that was most interesting about them is they had the tiniest leaves. They're like little tiny, like not quite like a pine tree tiny, like thin like that, but it was just like, it was kind of thin, but also really small and short. So I thought that, man, something so great, needs this many leaves in order to catch sunlight, to do all these different things. But it made me think about the like, if I didn't go do that, what would I have known and thought of, just the whole experience, because I put my brain in that situation, and then, it put me in a position to like, think of other things that I would not have thought of, and so, and then overall in that whole trip allowed me to put myself, at least my brain in circumstances where it made me think at a level that helps me now, I think. But that's my belief on that. What do you think, Philippe? Why do you think we don't, or why we seek to, self-medicate, or we get lethargic to the degree that we have in a collective way?
Well, first, part of what you said really hits home for me, because I do teleneurology. I only do it part-time, right? And I find that I am repeating, I'm just saying the same things over and over, usually to different patients, but sometimes the same patients. It's actually one of the reasons why I left private practice when I did back in 2018, because I was like, I am so bored. I'm saying the same thing every single day to either different patients or the same patient, right?
Right.
And so, with the pandemic, I've had to transition to doing some more traditional neurology. And my oldest son recently repeated verbatim what I say to patients to me. And I'm like, yeah, I need to get out of this job.
You didn't go, are you a doctor?
Verbatim, right? So that really hits home for me. The other thing too, I think people are never fully present in the moment. And if anything, people want to escape the present. And so they use things like alcohol to escape their present reality, whatever that looks like. Even though for most people in this moment, like, you're not experiencing any particular trauma or stressor in this moment. Like, they're certainly in the past, you may have, you may be worried about what the future holds, but this is the only moment that actually counts, right? And so I don't think people are ever truly present. And in fact, I often see people who are depressed because of things that have happened in the past, and super anxious because of the things that may or may never happen in the future.
I was just going to say that as well, that that choice of stress as well, very much so, maybe not conscious, but a beautiful way to avoid, what can I control right now? What actions can I take now? What can I be appreciative of now? Yep. And get caught in that cycle of rethinking what has already happened just for the sake of rethinking it. There's great value in evaluating and assessing choices you've made so that you can choose wiser the next time. But then that overthinking to the future as well, that worry, that anxiety, all of those pieces, that is writing a story of bad things to happen in the future, when in fact we could be using our imagination for writing the best case scenario, choosing what we want to be true, and taking the next step, because we really can't control if we get hit by a car the next day or not. So why worry about it?
No, you're right.
Yeah.
Oprah, you're really on this hit by a car thing today.
Really? Oh yeah, that's right. I said that earlier today.
I'm like, do I really want to go driving today?
Yikes.
No, Oprah has said something like that best. I think she said that doing the best at this moment puts you in the best place for the next moment. And so I don't think we consider, and that's why I want to do the timeline event, because in the timeline event, I kind of get to look back at what moments and opportunities I had, and then what adjustments I need to make in the current moment so that I can make better, get better moments ahead of me. And so looking for options. Yeah.
I might actually argue the opposite, just for the sake of arguing, maybe, but also because there's very little necessary. Who you've been up until now does not predict who you will be in the future, unless you continue to define yourself by who you've been up until now. But if by continuing to look backwards, we get to just upgrade slightly from who we've been. There's a beautiful opportunity to write the timeline the opposite. who do I want to be? Who do I want to be capable of?
Oh, yeah, yeah. In the future.
So, yeah, who do I want to be capable of? And write the timeline backwards. Great. So let's figure out let's reverse engineer that then and get to the state of what do I do today then? What do I do tomorrow? What is my focus for the next month?
So I like how you threw that out there. I think that's good. And that's why people work with people like us to make sure that it can happen. But I think that when if you don't have somebody like, I don't know if you don't, but when that's a hard thing to do, like reverse engineer what's your life, where your life is going, you almost need to, I think that there's a inventorying why, maybe not why, but where you've been kind of lets you understand like where you're at right now. And really see like where you're at. Because I think that sometimes the view that we have of where we're at is sometimes out of alignment with reality, if I can use it that way. And so I think wanting to escape where you're at currently is because most of the time I think that people don't realize where they're really at, but though they don't know. So we're not creative. When I say these things like, we're not creative, or people are drinking and they don't know that they drank that or overconsumed or been consuming more than they probably should. Like if you ask somebody, how many drinks can you have per day before you would be considered an alcoholic? They would say more than one. And we know that once you go more than one a day, you're an alcoholic, the way that they classify an alcoholism.
Well, and even then, defining by external standards, ultimately,
well,
again, deciding, is what I'm doing working for who I want to become and where I want to get, yes or no?
Yeah, but I'm contending that people don't ask themselves those type of questions on a daily basis or even on a monthly basis.
Yeah, that's what I'm inviting them into. That's why I'm not letting them think about just who they've been up until now.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah. But that's when they're working with you. So if they're not listening to us talk right now.
That's what I'm saying. Listen to us. No. Yeah, but I just, and if we're not doing that, then any solution will look good.
Oh,
the next, the quick fix will look good. And I can fall prey to that if I'm not being really conscious of where I'm at and what I really want, and recognizing to get where I want to be is going to take some work, and be willing to step into that. I can fall prey to it super easy. I bought an app just last week and I was like, this is great. This is yoga. This totally fits what I love doing and all of this.
Yes.
And I was sorely disappointed when I got it. And I was like, because unconsciously, I was not thinking about what I already know and what is within me and all of these things. I was looking for an external support to help me do it, to be the answer. And I felt stupid. No, I felt stupid after I saw it. Like I just felt really dumb but I'm glad that it happened, because it was able to shine that light on. That's right. You're avoiding the work right now. You're avoiding fully facing that you feel different when you show up at the gym than you did 5 years ago. And I can shame out about that, or I can just take this step today and then take the next step tomorrow and hire a personal trainer, because I know I'm going to keep getting in my own way of doing it myself. And those are ways. Philippe, what suggestions would you give to our listeners as they're waking up to the habits that they've created that may not be giving them the life that they want?
Yeah, so I would give this example. So let me ask you guys, how did you know that your name was Stacy and that your name was Doug, and Stacy is who you are and Doug is who you are? How did you guys know that?
Well, that's a great question. When I wrote it down,
it was told to me.
What's that? Exactly. It was told to you by your parents, and it was told to you over and over and over again. Repetition is key, because that's how you figure out who you are. And if you are repeating just the traumas of your life, reliving them over and over, reliving your mistakes over and over, then that's going to be who you end up being. But if you start repeating to yourself who you want to be, whether you want to be fit, so one of the things I do almost every day is I go through my affirmations, and it includes, I am healthy, I am fit, I am prosperous. I tell myself that over and over again. So that's who I become, right? So I think repetition is key, and repeating who it is you want to be, not repeating necessarily the past. I think you can think about the past and be like, okay, this is what I've learned, but then move on. And I don't know if I've said this before, but this tends to be the issue that I have with a lot of therapists is that, and I think therapy can be really important. You know, I'm a doctor. I've referred plenty of people for therapy, but when therapists keep their patients trapped in the traumas of their past, I think that is a problem, right? Because they're just reliving the trauma over and over and over again and not getting better, not becoming who they were meant to be.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's a, as they say, the unintended consequences of certain activity. And if you're not aware, or it's not when you're not aware, of course, it's unintended, so you're not gonna be aware. But what happens is you don't want to have those things make long-term impacts in your life or in our lives personally, right? So to me, it's about what am I doing next to level up? Where position am I putting my brain into, my being into, in order to get to where I would like to be? Like your guy saying, like saying those affirmations is where you want to be. So the activity that you do to put yourself in that position is going to be key even after you say those things. So, go ahead.
And I think the reality is once you start believing those affirmations, your brain is going to put you in situations to start taking that action.
Yeah,
your brain is always committed to be right. Whatever you're telling it, it's going to set forth to help you be right about it.
Yep.
So for our listeners, what do you want to be right about? And that self-deprecating conversation that you have, you get to be right about it if you're going to continue to tell yourself that's what's true.
I was going to ask. So the question, okay, so the people are going out in droves. We seem to be consuming more alcohol, different drugs than ever before.
So doctors and nurses are always going to have jobs.
Yeah, they are. But my question is going to be like, what are we telling ourselves, right, or confirming that puts us in that position? And then maybe that's the the $10 million question that we have. Is it just because we're coping with life, or are we trying to have fun? What are the factors? But in where people are wanting to be, if they're maybe not measuring up or taking stock of what position they're putting themselves into, I don't know if they'll get up to that other side of where they're trying to get to, or if they even are trying to get anywhere. Maybe they're not.
I think the reality is people are always giving themselves negative messages. So I was having a conversation with somebody today who was telling me like her daughter was upset about something. Mm-hmm. And she was like, I can't win. I'm like, why would you say that to yourself? Like in my affirmations, I tell myself every day, the God within me cannot fail, right? Mm-hmm. I am always winning. Why would you tell yourself you can't win? Because then that's exactly what's going to happen. And I'm like, so what if your daughter's upset at you? Kids are also upset at their parents. Why would that put you in such a negative space, So I think people are constantly telling themselves, they're essentially giving themselves negative affirmations all the time, and they do not even realize it.
The conversations that we have within ourselves and with others matter, and what we listen to matters. And there is going to be all kinds of stuff. This data is being researched by not just people who want to make you healthy, but want to help you stay sick and dependent, and on all of the things that keep you where they need you to be so that you can make money. And you're going to hear, for our listeners, you're going to hear this a lot from us this season. The three of us standing here believe that it is within each and every one of us to be able, we already have what we need within us to become who we want to become. Does it sometimes take bringing people alongside with you and resources with you? Absolutely. But there's not a quick fix to create a thrilling life. There's just not. It is really this opportunity to choose who you want to be, speak truth to it, and keep walking it one step after another. But it starts with declaring it. Yeah.
Beautiful. That's a great way to end our first show back. Thank you for listening. We're back, season 2. This is the first episode out. Thank you guys for the conversation. The other Philippe and Stacey. Thank you, listeners, for listening. Until next time, you're listening to the Brain Prophets.
All right, guys, take care.